I'd like to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. The first item we have on the agenda is requests for council action. We have several for the Finance Committee. 24-1, the 2024 tax advance request. 24-2, repeal ordinance 20723, increase PO number 2023-1706, Wise Waterproofing. 24-3, expenditure over $35,000 to Akron uniform for the police department. 24-4, expenditure over $20,000 to Huntington Bank Police Department. 24-5, expenditure over $20,000 to Fire Safety Services Fire Department. 24-6, expenditure over $20,000 to Armstrong Cable IT Department. 24-7, expenditure over $20,000 to Technology Engineering IT Department. 24-8, adopt multi-use plan. 24-9, architect design services agreement, Medina Municipal Airport. 24-10, capital improvement purchase order, MCRC. Medina Municipal Court, I'm sorry. 24-11, budget amendments. The next item we have is 24-1, 2024 tax advance request. Keith?
Thank you. This is an annual thing. We are required to request these advances in order to get them. I think that's kind of a relic of ORC, but we have to do it, so I'd ask you to approve it.
Any questions?
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 24-2, repeal ordinance 2007-23, increase PO 2023-1706, Wise Waterproofing. Andrew?
Yes, thank you. This was a PO to increase some work for a chip project at 30 Circle Drive from $18,400 to $39,500. We inadvertently transposed some numbers, so this just corrects the account number to 1370460-52215 and repeals the previous ordinance 207-23. Thank you.
Any emergency clause?
Yeah, the work is actually pretty much complete at this point. We're just trying to clean up the account number in this case.
Okay. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, does it also change the name of who's getting because in the ordinance we had Connected Electrical, and now you're asking for Wise Waterproofing?
Yeah, Wise Waterproofing is the correct.
Is the correct one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Move to approve with the emergency clause. Second, including the emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 24-3, expenditure over $20,000 for Akron uniforms for the police department. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is for uniforms for the police department. It's a blanket.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 24-4, expenditure over $20,000 for Huntington Bank for the police department. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a blanket PO for our Huntington credit card.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 24-5, expenditure over $20,000 for fire safety services for the fire department. Chief Walters?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an annual blanket for firefighter PPE and firefighting equipment.
Questions?
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 24-6, expenditure over $20,000 for Armstrong Cable for the IT department. Sergeant Zaremba?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a super blanket purchase order for internet services throughout the entire city, as well as cable.
A super blanket, wow. That's good. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Paul.
Thank you. Does this also include, Sergeant John, does this also include our camera at the various sites around the city?
This is the
Feeding into-
internet connections, yes.
All of that?
All
Okay,
of
that's not cellular,
Nope.
that's internet. Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 24-7, expenditure over $20,000, technology engineering for the IT department. Sergeant Zaremba.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is for our entire city's VoIP phone system.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 24-8, adopt a multi-use path plan. Andrew?
Yes, as you recall in 2022, we completed an update of the city's comprehensive plan to address a number of important topics. One of those topics was for the city to adopt an active transportation plan. That's one of the goals of the comprehensive plan, and the time period was short-term. As such, in late 2022, Council authorized the use of ARPA funds to employ a consultant to conduct a multi-use path plan. Throughout this year, we've worked with Envision Group, our consultant for the project, in partnership with the Medina County Parks District to create a multi-use path plan. So we have Ryan Smalley from the Envision Group here tonight to give an overview of the multi-use plan. I'll note that the Planning Commission's December meeting, the commission voted unanimously to recommend adoption of the plan. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ryan.
Great, thanks, Andrew. They don't have the presentation up, so I'll just do a real quick overview for everybody. So we started back in March, 9-month process, worked with a steering committee that was comprised of city council members, staff from the Parks District, business owners, residents. We worked with them over that period of time to sort of figure out where people wanted to see improved bicycle and pedestrian connections throughout the city and some of the surrounding townships. Through that process, we engaged the public 3 times. We went and had 3 different public meetings. We had community surveys throughout the process to try to help us figure out where trails should be connected to. We came up with a concept plan that has about 25 miles of off-road trails throughout the city and around the city. We segregated those down into about 17 buildable segments and worked to create a prioritization matrix for each one of those segments. We worked with the steering committee and the public to sort of identify what section should be a priority, and then broke those sections down with preliminary estimates, plan views, and typical sections so that the city would be able to go after grant funding to go after these priority trail segments throughout the city. We did a whole bunch of them so that the city has some flexibility going after different funding sources. We also went through and detailed what funding sources make the most sense for certain types of trails, certain situations, dictate certain funding sources over others. So we wanted to give a complete plan that was implementable to the city. And with that, I'll open up to questions.
Anybody have any questions? Nobody? I mean, I think this is great that we're starting this, and I know it's going to take a lot of years probably to accomplish it, but at least that's a starting point, that we have a direction of what, areas of the trails we can target first. They're the most affordable, I guess, let's just say, and the easiest to do, and then go to the more difficult ones and, try to make sure the connectivity is the best we can throughout the whole city.
Mr. President? Oh, go ahead, Mayor.
Sorry, Mr. Shields. The only other thing I would offer is we thought this would have the most impact from public visibility, being adjacent to the square and connecting the Southtown area up to beyond the square. And the hope is that will then generate more interest as these other phases of the plan come along. We felt this would get the most attention.
Right. Oh, good. Any other questions?
No question. I just want to make a comment. I want to thank you, Ryan. You did a really nice job, and I think our final product, we were all very impressed with what you produced, and it was even more than what we were expecting. So thank you for all your hard work on this. Doing such a great job. I second that.
All right, is there a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor?
All right.
All opposed? Motion carries. 24-9, Architect Design Services Agreement for the Medina Municipal Court. Patrick.
Thank you. As council remembers, back in October, council created a committee, an architect review committee, to assist us in the process of hiring an architect for the municipal court renovation of the 1969 building. In the state of Ohio, to hire an architect or an engineering consultant with the design fee over, I think it's $50,000, you have to go through a qualification-based selection process. So that's the task that we undertook. Firms were invited to submit a letter of interest to us. We received a total of 5 qualification statements. The committee reviewed those. We met 3 times. The first meeting, we ranked those and decided to invite the top 2 in for an interview. The second meeting, we conducted those interviews and then decided who we thought was the most qualified, and that was Branstetter Carroll Incorporated. In the third meeting, we reviewed their contract proposal and agreed to, and that was just last week, and the committee voted unanimously to recommend to council that the city hire Branstetter Carroll for this work. The design fee is $720,000. Nancy Nozick from Branstetter is here if you have any questions. One thing I would note, I didn't put a recommended suggested funding. I did put the two accounts, the court special projects and general purpose cap, and their current balances, so council could offer input as to where it should come from.
Yeah, thank you. I think to hit on that a little bit right now, I think when we talked about this, I mean, we've been talking about this for many, many years. I think what we were at was that the Special Projects Fund would be used for the construction, and then for half the project, whatever the cost would be, and then the next half would be split 50-50 between the city and the Special Project Fund using funds generated over the years of the special project fee that's charged to help pay for that. We'll probably have to revisit that second half because I think some of the special project monies generated, which is usually about $250,000 a year, 160 or 70,000 of that's going to be used to pay for the lease payment as it goes forward, because the individuals that are going to use the building are not only individuals that reside in the city limits, but a majority, I think 2/3 or 3/4 of the townships in the county will be using the Medina Municipal Court as they do currently, should contribute to the cost of the building. I think we talked to the judge, and I think he was okay with that concept, but we're going to have to discuss the allocation of the other half, because we do have money available in the 301 account, and he has money available that should cover this, but we are going to have to figure out the final allocation once we get closer to that point. And I think everybody kind of hopefully remembers discussions of that ad nauseum, but we did. And we can figure that out. And Nancy, I don't know if you want to go to the back and give us a little summary. I know you worked on this a while. We worked together on it. We went from the new construction to the rehab construction. I know I'm not going to hold you to it, but maybe I should. The cost of the court that you gave us in November of 2022 was only $7.1 million with the contingency and the fee involved. But I understand that things may have changed. Hopefully, we're coming down on construction costs and reached the peak a while ago because things are changing, inflation's going down and things, but I don't know if the contractors have really caught up to that. But you can enlighten us.
Thank you. Is this on? Yes, it is. So again, I'm Nancy Nozick from Branstetter Carroll Architects. We worked for the county, both in a study for the Medina County Courthouse that was intended to include space to be used by the Medina Municipal Courthouse. We then worked for the county to design the Medina County Courthouse, and the schematic design portion of that project included the Medina Municipal Court. So the programming and concept planning, we went through all that work with the Medina Municipal Court. After the point of schematic design, the Medina Municipal Court was no longer part of that project, so we continued the design and the overseeing the construction for the Medina County Courthouse. At that time, after some decisions and some workings with the city, there was the idea that the municipal court could move into the 1969 building that the county was going to vacate as they moved into their new county courthouse. We did do some preliminary work for the city at that time to find out how could we fit the program for the Medina Municipal Court into the 1969 building. And we've actually worked with them quite a bit, kind of tweaking that and fine-tuning that to make sure that all of the functions can adequately and securely and safely be housed in that building. So then at that point, again, we put our submission in because we definitely want to continue working in Medina and on this project and on this property. So at the time, even back when we started working on the county courthouse, the allocation for the municipal court was always tagged at about $8 million. When we got down to working in the 69 building, we were trying to put some numbers to it, and I don't have them all with me. I'm going to trust you, Mr. Coyne, that it was a little less than that. We've updated these costs based on the actual dollars for the county courthouse, particularly the renovation portion. So the old courthouse on the corner, that portion was a renovation project. And we looked at the actual construction cost from that. Now, those costs are still a couple years old, but we felt that was our best gauge at this point to update the construction cost for this project. Now, as we move forward, we do have an outside cost estimating company on our team as part of these fees and this process to do construction cost estimating throughout the process here so that we will get some better hard numbers. I tell everyone I talk to, you don't know what that number is till bid day, till you open up those bids and you see what that number is. But, and we have also talked with the city about the possibility of moving forward with a construction manager, similar to how the county did. All that does is that brings a contracting entity, construction entity in earlier in the process. They can also validate some of that construction cost. So that's going to be an ongoing discussion, and as we work on the design of the building, that will continually be updated and brought up to date as we move forward.
Now, when you came up with I guess going to the process from schematic design and getting into construction documents and the bid, I can't remember what the county did. Was it a construction manager at risk with a stipulated sum or a guaranteed maximum price? I mean, what are we looking at to do here in the city?
We haven't decided yet what to do here. What the county did, they did have a construction manager at risk with a guaranteed maximum price. I will tell you that sounds like a guaranteed maximum price, but if the owner changes their mind on some of the scope, that can change. So the good news is at the county, at the end of the day, they received money back from that guaranteed maximum price contract. It was somewhere around $350,000 that they received back on that. So that delivery model for construction worked really well for that project. We think it would work really well for this project. That decision hasn't been made, but you know, however the city wants to move forward, we will be able to lead that.
And with the old 1800 renovation, what kind of was the square footage cost of that you ran into? Do you remember?
Ask me that.
A
No.
range? Any kind of
No.
range? Was it like $20?
You didn't prep me. You didn't prep me on that for that question.
I don't know. I know you had like $200. I was just wondering, with the rise in construction, you know, I think we hit the peak over COVID, right after COVID. I just wondering if do you see it coming down, or I would imagine it's probably at least 250 during that height of its, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry, I do not
Okay,
have that number
okay.
with me right now, but what we are seeing in construction cost, it's kind of steadying off, but it's still not quite solid, and there continue to be lead time issues on electrical equipment, mechanical equipment, things like that. That tends to affect prices.
Is that getting better though, I think? Is it looks like it's getting better?
Some of it gets better, and then the next week something else gets bad, and then that gets better, and something else gets bad. So it's an ongoing thing. It's not nearly as bad as it was 3 years ago, 4 years ago. But it's something that we just have to keep track of. And even if we don't go with a construction manager at risk, our cost estimating partner and other construction partners that we have on other projects, we're being made aware of those things on a regular basis. You know, if we run into it on another project, we'll bring it to this table and say, hey, we're having an issue with this particular item. Is there something we can do in the design of this construction project that might mitigate that risk a little bit in terms of how we move forward?
Now, moving forward with this, if we pass this out of finance, then we'll go to council. The question is, in that time, before it becomes effective, if we sign anything, I think we'd like to have a meeting, like a kind of a kickoff meeting to talk about it, just to get prepared for it, so then when everything can get signed, we can hit the ground running. I know you've done a lot of work already in looking at the building, looking at the feasibility of the building for the municipal court, so I think we have a pretty good foundation started. I guess we just want to get together and make sure our expectations meet your expectations of where the direction is going to go, how we're going to proceed, talk about the construction manager at risk, route to go, look at, what are going to be the most challenges that we're going to have at the renovation. We have interior renovation, we have some exterior renovation that's going to need to occur at that facility. What kind of disruption will that have, if any, on the current court? Sidewalks, whatever, because since they're so close together, there's, there's going to be some connection points that need to occur. how hard that's gonna be and stuff like that, I guess. Does anybody have any
Yeah,
questions on that?
absolutely. We call that a kickoff meeting. We can have that at any time. We have no problem doing that in advance of a signed contract. And I actually there was a question that came up when we interviewed about if the county had done any asbestos assessment of the building, and I just found that report and sent it over to Patrick today. So that is something, there is abatement that needs to occur before any kind of demolition or renovation. So that's something I would recommend that we get, on track so that can happen before construction starts. So there's a lot of things we need to talk about, and we're happy to get started right away.
Okay. Mayor?
While you're there, Nancy, a question for you is, I know the judge has seen the new court, our municipal court judge has seen the new courthouses and seems satisfied with the finishes and so forth. In your experience, being that the 1969 is not as old as what the 1841 is, obviously, will there be some of the woodwork and judges' benches and things like that that could be set aside to then be reused versus throwing out everything that's in there and starting fresh?
Yeah, absolutely. So the county courthouse, being that the majority of it was new, we kind of set a standard and a tone, and we tried to blend that in with the renovation of the old courthouse. However, in the old courthouse, we did salvage a lot of woodwork and replaced it and used it in the public areas. So there are definitely things in the 69 building. There's a lot of woodwork, as you said, the judges' benches that we can certainly look at reusing or modifying. And another thing, there's some really nice terrazzo floors, especially in the stairwells in the public hallway. So, as any of that stuff that we can keep as we move forward, we will definitely look at that.
Okay. And you might just hang on there for 1 second.
I'm going to hang.
So for the council's benefit, Chris Jacob, who's the county administrator, originally, I think I shared this with the council, they have a bunch of old furniture in there that they were first going to offer to other departments within the county, then to the municipal court to take what they had interest in, and then lastly to public auction, but hold the auction there so they didn't have to move everything. The judge reached out on his own and got permission from Chris Jacob to reverse those first two steps and let the municipal court go in and tag the things that they're interested in first, because they're probably more conducive to court purposes than they are, planning and zoning or any other county department. So Chris Jacob was very gracious, and they were going over last week. I don't remember if it was Thursday or Friday to do that marking. So that's the first thing. The other thing is, I guess, is the question for the council of, do we want to have another meeting ahead of the council to have this kickoff meeting? And if so, is it, if we could fit it between Board of Control and Finance, would that work, or would you rather have it days ahead so you have time to ponder what was talked about and so forth? It would require you coming out for another meeting if we're trying to do it in the next 10 weeks, and then 2 weeks, in the next 2 weeks. And then the question would be of Nancy of whether or not she could accommodate us with that. So,
Well, my personal opinion would be, I guess I wouldn't, it doesn't matter to me if it's before the finance or after council, within the 30 days after a council meeting, but I think we should have it in that 6-week period. And I think it should be a separate meeting, just so everybody can focus on it and think about it and have, questions ready for it. I think the question about approving the contract to me, it's a foregone conclusion that we're going to have to do that. The bigger question is just communicating and making sure that we're all on the same page as far as the timeline, the renovations, what type of renovations, things of that type that I think we could just talk through in a regular meeting. Maybe a separate meeting would be best, and trying to cram it in if everybody's okay with that, because this is a pretty big project for the city. I think we can probably do that. I don't think that would be a big problem. And then I think the judge can come too if he'd want. I think we have to have it later.
Okay, so hearing that, we're not talking about in the next 2 weeks, just sometimes in the next 6 weeks?
I think so. I think
Okay.
everybody agreeable with that, or do somebody think they could
Okay,
have it sooner?
so I can ask either Sherry or Kathy then to try to coordinate with your schedules.
Sure.
Patrick and mine,
And the
the
judge.
judges,
Yes.
probably Cindy's,
Yep.
and then Nancy's
And then with
team.
Mike too, I guess, since Mike's now involved, he probably would want to come, Mike Kovac, to come to the meeting. to
Yes,
look
sir.
at his section or whatever that's going to be.
Right, right. Okay. And-
Just one real quick question, so I got this clear. This will be after council votes on the ordinance, but before the contract is signed, we'll have this meeting.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Just to make sure I had that right. Thank you.
Well, and kind of to that point, Paul, Patrick, after he and I discussed it, we submitted this with the emergency clause, but in further discussions with John, we're going to ask that we not pass it with the emergency clause, and we will do our best to keep this project moving. I'm trying to get it done in a 2-year time span, but 30 days in the scheme of things is not going to make that much of a difference. So with that in mind, then we have 30 days before the contract could be signed anyway. So sometime after council and before that 30 days is likely when we would try to schedule this special meeting, if that makes sense to everybody. Does that make sense to you, Nancy?
Yeah,
Any
that's
questions?
perfect.
Okay.
Danny?
I just have a comment, Nancy. Congratulations on your firm being
Thank you.
chosen. I understand why I was able to, excuse me, I was able to tour the new courthouse facility and the 1841 courthouse facility and was totally impressed. So I'm glad your firm was chosen. We look forward to working with you. So thank you.
so much.
Any other questions?
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Is that with using the courthouse special projects fund?
Well, I guess we could start with that, but we're going to have to divide it up at some point. So you can tag that for now, but the fees aren't going to be due until the extra
account
construction.
number have to be in the ordinance that we pass, so.
Okay, I mean, we could do that, but I mean, the fees aren't gonna be incurred until, once we bid them out, and then, because it includes, I guess it'll be a payment along the way, because we don't know what the cost is. Right. Okay. Well, they base it about 8 million, if it comes in a different, different,
We know what their fees are.
of the fees, yes.
Fees.
Yes, that's right. We don't know the cost, we know the fees, you're correct. Okay, anything else? Okay. Thanks, Nancy. Next one is 2410, capital improvement purchase order for MCRC. Jansen?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is our annual request for the balance of the capital fund for a purchase order to pay the schools. I did attach a capital improvement plan that we developed with the assistance of the school business affairs director. We do have some pretty substantial projects outlined, particularly in the summer of 2025. We tried to buy a little bit of time with our planning of those capital projects to allow the fund to build up slightly after our pool renovation project. So we're requesting the balance. I attached the third quarter balance sheet. We should have the fourth quarter here by the end of the week. We will review the capital improvement plan at our rec advisory committee meeting on January 11th, but don't anticipate any changes.
Any questions?
No, Mr. President, I'm going to abstain since it involves my employer.
Okay.
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions?
All right.
Motion carries. Next thing we have is 2411, which are budget amendments. The first one is 2401. And this is a court one, I think.
It's a pass-through, so.
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2402.
Pass-through of a donation.
Okay.
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2403.
Pass-through of money from selling ice cream.
Ooh.
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2404.
Pass-through of a donation.
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That's it. Anything else to come before the finance meeting today? All right, the meeting is adjourned.